Good morning, everybody, and first of all, thanks to One to host this and put this great conference on again this year. And Archie, thank you for the introduction. It's interesting coming after Cardinal. We have two very similar sized projects in different parts of Africa. We go where the brave fear to tread. Our project's in the country of Sudan, and though I've built a mine in Ghana, it's a great place to be. When we finished our time in West Africa, and we were looking around for where do we go to find huge gold endowments along the size that we think, for example, of Tasiast, which we built. Where can you go? And our exploration team came to us and said, well, if we've got the political fortitude, let's go to Sudan. The Nubian Shield is one of the pretty much untapped great areas of geology in the world. And there's indications from guys that are already there, such as Sukari and Centamin. You go down into the Bisha mine down in Eritrea. There's a great deposit, a historical deposit in Sudan. So we felt that we're going to be able to go in there in a very short order, should be able to determine if we can find something along similar lines. So about 7, 8 years ago, we made the decision to go in as a private company to test the waters of Sudan. And in a very short time frame, discovered that probably the largest gold rush in history was taking place in the north of Sudan. We went up there with our teams. We found a concession we liked. We did a deal with the local owner. 6 years later, we've completed bankable feasibility on a very, very large project. It's ready to build. And the only issue we have is some politics, which I'll touch upon as we go through the presentation. And obviously, like Archie and Cardinal, everything we do depends on financing going forward. Again, the key for us is, in a short period of time, we proved up a very large ore body. Having to be very conservative because we're in Sudan, we ran our resource numbers at $1,100 gold, and we ran the financials at $1,250. In anticipation of doing something along the financing side this year, we recently spun out our assets in Côte d'Ivoire into a private company called Montage. Montage is here as well. And they are proceeding and drilling as we speak to increase our initial discovery in CDI. It's a really interesting package, and I highly recommend that you go talk to the Montage guys. Orca owns 45% of Montage. It's separated out and is completely now independent of Sudan and what we're doing there. The real key for us is what is going on in Sudan. It has been a bit of a roller coaster ride recently. Sudan was gradually progressing towards being friendly with the West, even under the regime of President Bashir. However, he couldn't shake off his spots, and anytime anything went wrong, he decided to throw a military solution at it. So back in 2018, the end of 2018, the economy of Sudan was spiraling downwards. He was told by the World Bank he had to get rid of subsidies on fuel and flour. He did it very aggressively, which triggered an uprising of the population of Sudan. That uprising became a complete overthrow as a result of Bashir using the military to go in and try to suppress the uprising. Approximately 300 people were killed, and that led to the downfall of President Bashir. He was arrested in April of 2019. He's been convicted, so far convicted on corruption charges. He's in jail in Khartoum. And right now, the people of Sudan are deciding whether they're going to extradite former President Bashir to The Hague and the International Criminal Court. So Sudan now has a new government. The country is run by a sovereign council made up of the military and the populist uprising. That military council appointed a prime minister, and Abdallah Hamdok is a very well-experienced international economist and banker. He has appointed a civilian government, and they're proceeding to try to bring Sudan back into line, increase the economy, make nice with the world, particularly the United States, and they've been doing a great job. Since this has happened, there's been 2 mini coups led by former Bashir cronies. Both of those were suppressed by the military in conjunction with the civilian government. So they're very much on track now with this new structured government towards democratic elections in about 3 years. So Sudan's really changed. And the latest news, and the issue is, we go through this, and I'll leave you with it at the end. The issue for Orca and Sudan is they're on a U.S. list called the List of State-Sponsored Terror. They were put on that list many years ago, and for, at that time, I would say valid reason. However, those reasons don't exist today. But the U.S. is using that list to get some concessions out of Sudan from a political and economic perspective. We anticipate within the next 6 months, Sudan will be off that list. That are the indications. And the big news today out of Sudan and Washington is the head of the military councils, or the Sovereign Council in Sudan, who's a general, has been invited by the Secretary of State to Washington. And that news broke this morning. So they are getting very, very close to what it's going to take to get Sudan off that list. What's great for us is, once we're out that list, then we open up a world of financing opportunities for our mine. Right now, if being on that list means American companies won't invest in Sudan, effectively. And since a lot of the banks have U.S. shareholders, a lot of the funds have U.S. shareholders, that's what we've been facing. Now, we've been looking at alternatives, and we've got lots of things going on, but certainly, if they come off the list in the next 6 months, it makes the reality of a very near-term financing of our project much easier. So I won't go through really the numbers in too much detail, albeit to say, like Cardinal's project, this is a stunning project. It's I would say one of the top two pre-development projects in this part of the world, one being Cardinal's and one being ours. Again, the sensitivities to gold price. Both these projects are incredibly sensitive to gold price, and at current gold prices, this is an impressive economic investment. So, as I said, the key for us going forward on financing in the last couple of minutes that I have, which is what everybody cares about, we've spent about $70 million US on this project over the years. Our market cap, that's US. Our market cap is 70 million Canadian. And people say, how can a company like that, a junior, go and finance $320 million to build it? Well, the answer is, you can't. You've got to be really creative. You can't do it the way we did 10 years ago, which was straight equity debt in these markets, and people loved your stock, and you could use equity at very high prices. So today you got to be creative, and we're very lucky. The biggest shareholder in Orca is Lucas Lundin. The second largest shareholder is Resolute Mining, and the third largest shareholder is Ross Beatty. So we've got the wherewithal of that shareholder group to fund this mine internally if we so choose. At the same time, we're obviously in corporate discussions. We're also in very interesting discussions in the Gulf. The Arab states are very keen to see Sudan emerge from the darkness they've been in, and the sovereign funds have shown some real willingness to look at Sudan, particularly in owning part of the project. So there's a lot going on. We're pretty confident that over the next 6 months we'll be able to announce that we financed this project one way or the other, and we'll start serious construction. We are going to go into pre-construction. So over the next coming months, the next 6 months, we're going to build an airstrip at site, which makes it far more accessible to everyone. We are going to look at building some initial road work. We are continuing our detailed engineering. We're going to do the preliminary work on a bore field where we're going to be pumping water from. So we are seriously anticipating making a formal construction decision sometime this year, and in anticipation of that, we're going to start work. That's my presentation. Thanks very much.